What if I told you that the biggest obstacles to your spiritual growth aren't outside forces or circumstances, but common pitfalls in your own approach and understanding? The spiritual path is a beautiful and profound undertaking, but it's not without its challenges. Even with the best of intentions, it's all too easy to get sidetracked by patterns of thought and behavior that can hinder your progress and keep you stuck. In this video, we'll explore 9 of these anti-spiritual pitfalls that you absolutely must avoid if you want to make real headway on your spiritual journey. By shining a light on these common stumbling blocks, my hope is to equip you with the awareness and tools you need to navigate your path with greater clarity, wisdom, and ease. So if you're ready to take your spiritual practice to the next level, keep watching. The first and perhaps most foundational pitfall to avoid is neglecting to establish a regular spiritual practice. Whether it's daily meditation, prayer, contemplation, or any other practice that resonates with you, consistency is absolutely key. It's through regular, disciplined engagement with these practices that we begin to see real change and growth in ourselves over time. Just like physical exercise, the benefits of spiritual practice come through repeated effort and gradually build on themselves. But here's the thing, it's not always easy to maintain that consistency. Life gets busy, motivation comes and goes, and it can be tempting to let your practice slide when you're not feeling fully inspired. This is why discipline and commitment are so important. The most spiritually advanced people in the world aren't that way because they always feel like practicing. They're that way because they practice even when they don't feel like it. They understand that the real work happens in those moments when we show up anyway, not just when we're riding a wave of inspiration. So if you find yourself struggling to maintain a regular practice, know that you're not alone, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's a natural part of the journey. The key is to keep recommitting again and again, and to find ways to make your practice as sustainable and integrated into your life as possible. The second pitfall to watch out for is what's often called spiritual materialism. This is when we approach spirituality with the same grasping, acquisitive mindset that often characterizes our relationship to material things. We live in a culture that places a lot of value on external accomplishments, status, and validation. It's easy to unconsciously bring this way of thinking into our spiritual lives, chasing after spiritual experiences, powers, or recognition as a way to feel more valuable or important. We might find ourselves accumulating spiritual knowledge and concepts, jumping from teaching to teaching, without ever really integrating them into our lived experience. We can get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, trying to be the most spiritual person in the room or impress people with how much we know. But true spirituality isn't about any of that. It's not about what you know or what you can do. It's about who you are and how you show up in the world. It's about the inner transformation that comes from genuinely embodying the teachings, not just intellectually understanding them. So if you notice yourself getting caught up in spiritual materialism, gently remind yourself of what really matters. Reorient yourself towards the true heart of the path, the work of expanding your consciousness, deepening your compassion, and showing up more fully and authentically in your life and relationships. That's where the real juice is. The third pitfall is a lack of discernment when it comes to spiritual teachers and teachings. In today's world, we have access to an unprecedented amount of spiritual information and resources. While this is amazing in many ways, it also means that not everything out there is equally helpful, legitimate, or applicable to our unique path. It's crucial to engage with spiritual teachings and teachers with a healthy dose of critical thinking and discernment. Just because someone claims to be enlightened or have all the answers doesn't necessarily mean they do. And just because a teaching is popular or resonates with someone else doesn't mean it's the right fit for you. True wisdom is learning to trust your own inner guidance system above all else. This doesn't mean closing yourself off to outside perspectives. We can absolutely learn and benefit from the insights of others. But at the end of the day, you are the ultimate authority on your own path. So as you explore different teachings and traditions, always be asking yourself, does this align with my deepest values and understanding? Is this helping me become more of who I really am? Or is it taking me further away from myself? Does this resonate not just intellectually but in the wisdom of my own lived experience? The more you cultivate this kind of discernment, the less likely you are to get sidetracked by teachings or teachers that aren't ultimately serving your growth. You'll develop a stronger sense of your own truth and be able to navigate the spiritual landscape with greater confidence and clarity. The fourth pitfall is what's known as spiritual bypassing. This is when we use spiritual ideas and practices to avoid or suppress painful emotions, unresolved trauma, or aspects of ourselves we don't want to face. For example, someone might adopt a relentlessly positive, good vibes only attitude as a way to avoid dealing with their own sadness, anger, or fear. Or they might use meditation as a way to dissociate from challenging life circumstances, rather than as a tool for mindfully meeting and processing what's coming up. The thing is, real spiritual growth isn't about transcending the human experience. It's about fully and courageously showing up for it. It's not about getting rid of our difficult emotions, but learning to hold them with greater wisdom and compassion. It's not about bypassing our shadow side, but integrating it into the wholeness of who we are. This kind of deep inner work can be messy and uncomfortable at times. It requires us to confront parts of ourselves we may have been avoiding for years or even lifetimes. But this is where the real alchemy happens. By bringing awareness and love to our darkest places, we liberate tremendous amounts of energy and potential that were previously stuck. So if you find yourself using your spiritual practice as a way to escape or avoid reality, gently turn yourself back towards what you're running from. Ask for the courage and support you need to face it directly. Trust that your practice is not about removing you from the challenges of life, but equipping you with the inner resources to meet them with greater wholeheartedness and resilience. The fifth pitfall is pursuing spirituality in a way that creates imbalance in your overall lifestyle and well-being. It's easy to get so passionate about our spiritual path that we neglect other important areas of our lives, but this can actually undermine our growth in the long run. For example, someone might become so focused on their meditation practice that they stop prioritizing self-care basics like getting enough sleep, eating nourishing food, or moving their body regularly. Or they might withdraw from friends and family in order to devote more time to solitary practice, not realizing that healthy relationships are a crucial part of a spiritually supportive life. The key here is to understand that spirituality isn't separate from the rest of our lives. It should be a holistic path of transformation that touches and enhances every aspect of our being. Our spiritual practice should make us more alive, more engaged, and more resourced to show up fully in the world, not less. So if you notice that your pursuit of spirituality is throwing other parts of your life out of balance, it may be time to step back and reassess. How can you integrate your practice more seamlessly into your daily routine? How can you ensure you're tending to your basic physical, mental, and relational needs alongside your spiritual practice? What might it look like to approach every moment, even the seemingly mundane ones, with the same mindfulness and care you bring to your designated practice time? The most spiritually awake people are often those who understand the importance of balance and integration. They know that true spirituality isn't about retreating from the world, but bringing more presence, compassion, and wisdom to their engagement with it. The sixth pitfall to avoid is the trap of comparing your own spiritual journey to someone else's. It's natural to look around at others on the path and wonder if you're progressing as quickly or deeply as they seem to be. But the truth is, every single person's journey is utterly unique, and comparing yourself to others is a recipe for suffering and self-doubt. We all come to the path with different backgrounds, conditioning, and karma to work through. We all have our own particular gifts and challenges, our own unique way of learning and integrating the teachings. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's okay. The only thing that matters is that you're showing up for your path in the most authentic and wholehearted way you can. It doesn't matter whether you're having profound awakening experiences or struggling to quiet your mind for even a few minutes in meditation. It doesn't matter whether you're being recognized as a spiritual leader or quietly doing your practice in the privacy of your own home. What matters is the sincerity of your intention the courage of your commitment, and the depth of your willingness to keep showing up and doing the work day after day, no matter what. So if you find yourself getting caught up in comparison, gently remind yourself that your path is your own. Honor and trust the unique unfolding of your own journey without needing it to look like anyone else's. Stay focused on your own process, your own growth edges, your own invitations for greater freedom and love. In the end, we're all heading to the same place. We're all waking up to the truth of who we really are, but we each have to walk the path in our own way, honoring our own unique process and timeline. There's no race to the finish line, no competition to be the most evolved. There's just the sacred work of showing up for your own journey, one moment at a time. The seventh pitfall is getting attached to peak spiritual experiences and using them as a benchmark for your growth and progress. Many of us have had moments of profound awakening, blissful states of oneness, or powerful energetic openings on the spiritual path. And while these experiences can be incredibly beautiful and transformative, they can also become a source of grasping and suffering if we get too fixated on them. It's easy to chase the high of these peak moments, always looking for the next big breakthrough or altered state of consciousness. We can start to feel like our practice is only working if we're having dramatic visions or ecstatic experiences all the time. But the reality is, spiritual growth is often much more subtle and gradual than that. The real work of transformation happens in the moments between the peaks, in the daily discipline of showing up for our practice, in the slow and steady untangling of our conditioned patterns, in the quiet cultivation of presence and compassion in our ordinary lives. It's not always flashy or exciting, but it's where the real magic happens. This isn't to say that peak experiences aren't valuable or that we shouldn't appreciate them when they come. They can offer profound glimpses of our true nature and fuel our inspiration to keep practicing. But clinging to them or using them as the sole measure of our progress can actually hold us back. So if you notice yourself getting attached to peak experiences, see if you can bring a little more equanimity to your practice. Appreciate the highs when they come, but don't chase after them or get discouraged when they pass. Remember that every moment is an opportunity for awakening, not just the dramatic ones. The sacred is always right here, even in the most ordinary circumstances. And trust that as you keep showing up for your practice with sincerity and devotion, the fruits of your efforts will naturally blossom in their own time. You don't need to force or rush the process. Just keep planting the seeds, tending the soil of your consciousness, and let nature take its course. The eighth pitfall is neglecting the importance of embodiment on the spiritual path. Many spiritual traditions place a strong emphasis on transcendent states and experiences, on leaving the body and the material world behind in order to merge with the absolute. And while these experiences can certainly be profound, an overemphasis on them can lead to a kind of disconnection from the body and the earth. The truth is, spiritual realization isn't just about what happens in our meditation or in heightened states of consciousness. It's about how we live our realization in the world, in our physical bodies, in our relationships and communities. It's about bringing our understanding down into the bones of our being, not just holding it as a mental concept. This is where practices like yoga, conscious dance, martial arts, and spending time in nature can be so valuable. They help us cultivate a deep, grounded presence in the body and in the physical world. They teach us how to inhabit ourselves more fully, to embrace our incarnation with reverence and care. When we neglect embodiment, we risk becoming ungrounded and unintegrated. We may have all sorts of lofty spiritual ideas and experiences, but if we can't live them in our day-to-day reality, what good are they really? The goal is to bring heaven down to earth, to infuse our entire being with the light of awakening. So if you find yourself getting a little heady or dissociated in your practice, make a commitment to spending more time in your body. Get out in nature, take up a movement practice, do something that requires your full physical engagement. Let your spirituality be something that permeates every cell of your being, not just your mind. And remember, your body is not just a vehicle for your spiritual journey. It is a sacred manifestation of spirit itself. Treat it with the reverence and care it deserves. Honor its wisdom, its needs, its unique language and rhythms. Let your practice be one of deep listening and attunement to the intelligence of your embodied being. The ninth and final pitfall we'll explore is the tendency to isolate ourselves on the spiritual path. Many of us are drawn to spirituality because we feel like we don't quite fit in with the mainstream world. We're seeking something deeper, more authentic, more meaningful than what society typically offers. And while this longing is beautiful and valid, it can sometimes lead us to believe that we need to go it alone, that true spiritual growth happens in solitude, away from the messiness and challenges of human relationship. We may find ourselves withdrawing from friends and family, believing that they just don't understand or support our path. But the reality is, we need each other. We need the reflection, support, and challenges that arise in conscious relationship with others. We need to be seen and held in our vulnerability, to have our blind spots illuminated, to be called forth into greater authenticity and accountability. This doesn't mean we need to be around people all the time, or that solitude isn't also valuable. There's a time and place for withdrawing into our own process, for turning inward and tending to our own inner landscape. But if we stay there too long, we risk cutting ourselves off from the juice and aliveness of human connection. So if you find yourself isolating on your path, consider reaching out to others who share your values and aspirations. Seek out or create a community of practice, whether online or in person. Find a teacher, mentor, or spiritual friend who can offer guidance and support. Let yourself be held and challenged in the crucible of relationship. And remember, the spiritual path isn't just about your own personal growth and liberation. It's about the healing and awakening of our entire planet, our entire human family. We're all in this together, and we need each other to create the kind of world we want to live in. Your unique gifts and presence are needed, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of the whole. We've covered a lot of ground in this video, exploring 9 key pitfalls to avoid on the spiritual path. But the truth is, even with the best of intentions and the most diligent practice, we're all going to stumble and fall at times. We're human after all, and the spiritual journey is not about perfection. What matters is that we keep getting back up, keep recommitting to the path, keep learning and growing and evolving. We're not going to get it right all the time, and that's okay. The very act of coming back to practice, of starting over again and again, is what strengthens and deepens us over time. So if you find yourself caught in one of these pitfalls, don't beat yourself up about it. Simply bring awareness to what's happening, offer yourself some compassion, and gently steer yourself back on course. Remember why you set out on this path in the first place, not to prove anything or attain some lofty ideal, but to come home to the truth of who you really are. And trust that everything you encounter on this journey, the challenges and the triumphs, the peaks and the valleys, is all part of your unique curriculum of awakening. It's all conspiring for your liberation, even when it doesn't feel that way. The very things you think are holding you back are often the portals to your greatest breakthroughs and growth. So keep going, dear one. Keep showing up with an open heart and a willingness to learn. Keep letting yourself be humbled and expanded by this sacred journey of unfolding. The path is not always easy, but it is always worth it. And you are not walking it alone. May you be blessed with the courage, resilience, and grace to navigate the pitfalls and step fully into the light of your own awakened being. May all beings everywhere be free, peaceful, and radiant with the knowledge of their true nature, and may we all find our way home together. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.